Hi, this is Professor Vancello, and this is an Android project in Eclipse using text and calculations. And this is the same program that is in the tutorial for Chapter 3 of the Android Bootcamp book. So I'm not going to walk through creating the entire project. I'm just going to point out a few things that you might not have picked up on. And I want to emphasize a few things such as the data types. Make sure that you fully understand what the concept of data types, know what the different data types used in Java are, and when to use them. Double is a common data type used for currency. So we're assigning our value of 59.99 there in our variable. Notice in the Eclipse IDE, when you highlight a variable, it highlights throughout the project, so you can see where that variable is being used. And know what the keyword final does. It assigns a value to a variable and then doesn't let it change. So this tickets is a variable that we're assigning to one time based on what's in the text tickets text view. So that whatever you put there has to match the ID of the widget on your view. All right, so the text tickets was the ID set there, so we're going to get that value and store it in the variable. And the group is going to come from the spinner control. Again, the ID has to match. And the spinner control is taking its text from the strings file. So that's one of the new things that we learned here. And we've got an array for the different values that are in that spinner control. So it's in the values folder, the strings XML. And there's my groups. And I modified them a little bit to be some real groups that I like. But you're just going to click on the add button to add new strings to your project. And again, one of the reasons for this is for localization. You can easily make your programs customized to different locations and different languages. You can also quickly modify this program without really having to modify the code. You could just modify the strings if you had a new concert coming up in this particular example. Alright, so that's the strings XML. Back to the Java form. We added a button, and we're doing something with the button. And we've got our result. So result is a variable being created to hold the text that's in the text view. And so we're going to find that text. We're going to hold it in that variable. And then we're creating a click listener, and this is the code that's going to happen when that button is clicked. Going back and looking at what the click listener is associated with, it's associated with this variable cost. And what is cost? You look up a couple lines, and it's a variable that's holding the button. All right, within the click it's the click event happening, we have a variable being assigned for number of tickets, and it is getting the text out of the tickets variable, which is coming from line 25. You see how it highlights up there? That's where the tickets variable got assigned on line 25. So we're getting the text out of the tickets variable, which has already been gotten out of the tickets text view. And we're doing we're storing it in a number variable so we can then do a calculation on it. We're going to take the cost per ticket, which you see is defined on line 16, and multiply it by the number of tickets. So there's a couple things going on there. You're getting the text out of the text view and storing it in a variable, and then you're getting it out of that variable, and the text variable, and putting it into a number variable. Now, the group is being stored in a variable just to make it in the output. There's no different prices for different groups in this application. We're just practicing getting the text value using get selected item from the spinner control and saving it as a string variable for group choice. And remember, the string isn't technically a variable, it's a class. It's a class that's kind of like an array of characters. Alright, some of the other things we did here, we added this image, which we'll talk about later. We added a style. Remember, you had to do a couple different things with the style, or the theme. You had to set the theme here just to have it show up in the IDE so you could view it, but that didn't really change it in the running program. To change it in the running program, you had to go to the Android manifest file, and that's where you had to set it. There's a couple different ways to set it. One is you could just type it directly in to the XML view, and it's not as hard as it looks because it gives you that autocomplete stuff. Another option is in the application tab. You could type it in here, or you can click the browse button to choose a theme. Now this will actually change it for the application. And notice also here there's a label for the title. We just chose a theme that has no title bar. But look at here, if we did have a title bar, it's a string. It's one of our strings from our string XML file. There's a string for the title for each view, and we could change that value right here to change the title that appeared when our program ran. Alright, looking back at our view, our activity, we can then run it. I've got my phone hooked up as well, so it's going to let me choose between those. I made a couple of little changes as I was talking, so it's asking me to save those. And here's where I'm going to choose just my emulator so you can watch it run, not on my phone. And here it is running. You click into this text box and you have to use the keypad that pops up. You can't use the QWERTY keyboard on the right. You can use the spinner and click the button, triggers the event, and there's your output. Pretty cool. So make sure you understand the concept of the data types, getting a string input, converting it to a number, doing a calculation, converting it back to a string for output.